Welcome to the Innovia Consulting webinar series on demand. Scan the QR code or visit innovia.com/resources to check out the latest Business Central news and training for your business. This session is powered by UST Education. UST Education provides over 200 webinars a year for associations and B2B clients. The webinars are always led by thought leaders and offer CE credits. So I will start that. And we're off. So again, good afternoon and welcome to Having Challenges Providing Accurate Delivery Dates, led by Robin. Robin, is it Fennell? Am I saying that correctly?
It is Fennell.
Fennell, yes. Robin is an application consultant at Innovia Consulting. In the session today, she will be providing more information about the order promising functionality in Dynamics 365 Business Central. Just a couple of reminders for you today. I do need your full name on your Zoom tag, especially if you are requesting those CE credits. That's going to help me identify you and keep count of the answers that you have. To that point, we encourage audience participation in the chat, as we saw with our favorite candy selection today. Chat is where the magic happens, so we welcome your questions or your comments. Anything you'd like to add. If you have questions, please feel free to drop that into the chat for Robin. I will find an appropriate time during her presentation to ask her your question. So first CPE CAE question is our Ask the Audience. What would you like to get out of the webinar today? So there is no right or wrong answer. Your answer can simply be to learn and earn, or you could have something specific, a specific idea of what you're hoping to get out of this webinar. So as those are coming in, Robin, if you want to go ahead and take over your screen share, I'll be waiting for those answers. I'm specifically interested in learning more about this functionality.
Yeah, absolutely.
My knowledge base, yep, on 365, of course.
All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, you're good to go. I'm going to mute out now. Melanie, thank you. I got your answer. I'm going to mute out now and turn over to you, Robin.
Awesome. All right. So as Kate said, today we're going to be presenting on order promising in Business Central. I know that sometimes there are people who have expressed some challenges in being able to provide accurate delivery dates to their customers, and order promising is within Business Central. It is inherent within the system, and it is super easy to use. So that's what we're going to talk about. A little bit about me. My name is Robin Fennell. As she already said, I'm an application consultant at Innovia Consulting. Excuse me. I have been there for almost a year. It'll be a year on November 14th, actually. Prior to that, I was an end user at a company for 17 years, and my experience background with Business Central is pretty extensive. I have been in the Dynamics space since 2009, so about 14 years. First in NAV, and then in finance and operations, and then back into Business Central. So again, about 14 years of experience within the Dynamics space. All right, so let's start off with a question. How many of you have seen or used order promising before today? Anybody? Nope. Okay. Well, this will be fun then. Yay. Okay. So today's agenda is going to look a little like this. We're going to talk about some key concepts. There are only 2 key concepts that have to do with order promising. And then we're going to talk about setup. The setup itself is fairly simple. It can be extensive depending on the number of customers or items that you have. And as I'm sure all of you have heard before, garbage in, garbage out, right? So if it's not set up correctly, then you're not going to get the full benefit of what it can do for you. And then lastly, we're going to show you some sales order promising in action within the system. The good news is I did pre-record a demo in case something happens with my service, but right now I seem to be going strong, so I think we'll be able to show it to you live, so that's nice. All right, those key concepts, there are two. The first one is available to promise, and the second one is capable to promise. So these two are differentiated based on your inventory. So the first one is available to promise. The available to promise is based on inventory that's already on hand or expected to come in based on planned orders in the system. So this one is used first and looks at your inventory that's already there. It calculates any dates based on that availability of unreserved quantities in the system for, again, existing inventory and then anything that's already been planned, such as production or assembly orders, purchases, transfers, and even sales return orders. So that next concept is the capable to promise concept. This is for items which are not in inventory currently and do not have any orders associated with them. It estimates the earliest date that you could have that item available to ship if it needed to be produced, purchased, or transferred from another location. And based on that estimated availability date, Business Central will then calculate the delivery date to the customer. It will also create planning lines for the item and then reserve your inventory for that sales order. So pretty easy concepts, right? So let's talk about the setup of order promising. This is where it gets a little intensive. In order to set up the sales order promising functionality, there are 5 different locations that you need to complete some setup fields. The first one is the order promising setup page. Second one is the company information page. And then each location, customer, and item card that you want to use this for. So when we talk about order promising setup, right? The order promising setup page is fairly simple. It's got 4 fields on it total. There are no other fields except these 4. These are used specifically for the capable to promise functionality. The 4 fields are offset time, which is the period that the system will wait before issuing a new order, either purchase, production, or transfer. Order promising numbers, so that's your number series that you're going to use for order promising specifically. The order promising template, that's going to be the requisition worksheet template that you want to use for your order promising, and then the order promising worksheet, which is the requisition worksheet that you're selecting. And you can create multiple and choose which one you want to use specifically for the order promising itself. The information that's in these fields on this example, by the way, are defaults. They are the ones that Microsoft enters in there, and they're only used for the capable to promise functionality. All right, so company information setup. There are a couple of fields on here that you need to make sure it's under the shipping fast tab. The first one is that check avail period calc. That is how far out past the planned shipment date you want the system to look for availability for the demand. Check availability time bucket. That's how often your system is going to go out and look at supplier demand events for availability. Base calendar code, that specifies the calendar that you want to assign to your company. So for instance, say that your company itself works Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, right? You have weekends and holidays off. When you go in and you set that base calendar code for your company information, you can set it at that Monday through Friday, weekends and holidays off, okay? You can have more than one calendar code, and I'm going to show you why that's important in a couple of slides. The next one is Cal convergence time frame, and that one specifies how dates based on calendar and calendar related documents are calculated. So I know that that's a little hard to understand. There's not really a better explanation for that field. It just it refers to the dates, your calendar dates on things like sales and purchase documents, production and transfer orders, and how they're calculated. Default for the check availability period calc is 90 days. That's the Microsoft default, and it will show up on your sales order promise lines later. The Cal convergence time frame default is 1 year per Microsoft. I've never had a problem with it at 1 year. I don't think I've ever used any other time frame in there though. So your location setup. Couple of things on the location setup. There are only really 2 fields that you need to worry about on here, and it's under the Warehouse Fast tab. The first one is your outbound warehouse handling time. So in your warehouse location, the amount of time it takes your warehouse employee to pick, pack, and label your item for shipment is your outbound warehouse handling time. Okay. And you want to make sure that you have that listed on your location card for each of your locations that you'll be using for order promising, because that will tie into accuracy of the date that you're providing. The next field is that base calendar code. Okay. And again, we talked about the calendar code on the company information setup. This one is going to be a customizable calendar for planning that holds the location's working days and holidays. So on your company calendar, if your company is Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, weekends and holidays off, maybe your warehouse, though, runs 2 shifts, Monday through Saturday from 6 a.m. until 11 p.m. You can go into the calendar code and create a calendar for that location and set it up with multiple shifts and set your days off as Sundays and no holidays, maybe, right? And then that one that you put in here on your location card is going to actually override the calendar code that's on your company setup. So the more granular you get for your location, the more granular your calendar is going to get. And that one will override the one that's broader. Any questions about that? No? Okay. So on the customer card setup, there are several fields, and I'm going to show you 2 different slides because I couldn't fit them all on one. The first 2 are your ship to code and your location code. So your ship to code is going to be if the customer you're shipping to has a different warehouse or distribution center that you ship to than their actual company address, and that's the one that you ship to frequently or the most frequently, you would put that as a default in your ship to code. Your location code on your customer card is going to be the location that you would ship out of by default to that ship to code location or to the customer location. If you don't have a default, you don't have to put one on there, but it makes it easier on the sales order because if you enter the information on the customer card setup, it will carry over and pre-populate on your sales order. So if you enter it here, when you get to your sales order, it will already be there. It's a little less setup for you on the sales order end. The next fields on the customer card are your shipment method code and your shipment method agent code. If you regularly ship to your customer the same way every time, so you know that I'm always going to ship it for delivery and I'm always going to ship it via DHL or FedEx or UPS, you can put those in here, and again, they will default to the sales order. So if you set it up on your customer card one time, it's less entry that you have to do on your sales order later on. The agent service is going to be how you want to ship it. So do you want to ship it standard, ground, overnight? Again, if you do it the same way every time, it's easier to set it up once. The shipping time is going to be important. That's the amount of time that it takes to ship an item from your warehouse until you receive it at the customer location. Okay, so again, if you're shipping it via truck every single time and you know that it takes 3 days on the truck to get from your warehouse to your customer's warehouse, you would put that 3D in that shipping time. And then you're going to have a calendar code on your customer as well. The customer calendar code that you enter here, though, is going to be the hours and days that your customer warehouse is available. So say that when you ship to your customer, their warehouse only accepts shipments on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You can go in and set your non-working days as Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and then it will carry into your shipping and your promising time on your sales orders as well. And again, when you start talking about getting more granular, right? So your customer-based calendar code will trump the location-based calendar code and also the company information setup. All right. So how many of you currently use lead times for your replenishment? Or do you use replenishment? Bueller. You guys don't use replenishment? Okay. All right. Ooh, I don't know what I did there. All right. So on your item card, you have a replenishment fast tab. So if you are purchasing or assembling or producing your items within Business Central, or you carry inventory, you have to have a way to replenish your inventory. So on your item card, under the replenishment fast tab, you have a replenishment system. So this particular one, this example shows assembly, but purchase would be one, or production order would also be one. You have a lead time calculation field, and this is a date formula for the amount of time it takes to replenish the item. So for instance, let's say that you put in a purchase order and you need an item that's on this purchase order, how long it takes from the time that vendor receives your purchase order until the time you receive that item into your warehouse, that's the amount of lead time. So if you put your purchase order in and you know that it's going to take 7 days before that item is received in your warehouse, then that lead time calculation would be either 7D for 7 days or 1W for 1 week. And then I think the most important thing out of all of the setup, if you want to use capable to promise and sales order promising, is this critical tab. It's a Boolean field. And in order for the capable to promise to pull this item in, that critical Boolean field needs to be marked to true. It has to be true. Otherwise, the capable to promise functionality will not look for that item. Okay. So that's most of the setup. Something else that I want to share with you are some of the field definitions for the sales order promising. And then after that, I've got some date calculations. We're not going to really go in depth into what each of these things are, but I did want them on here because the webinar is going to be provided to you later as a recording. And that way you can go back and you can reference it if you need to. So I'm going to show you the fields and tell you what Microsoft says their definition is very quickly. And then if you have questions, you'll see it in action when we do the capable to promise and available to promise functionality. The first one is going to be your requested delivery date. So this date is actually on the sales order itself. And it's when your customer says, hey, can you have this delivered by the 15th of November possibly? You would put that in the requested delivery date. Your requested shipment date is going to be that delivery date that your customer wants minus your shipping time. So the amount of shipping time on your customer card, that's where that's going to come in. Planned delivery date is the date that we as a company plan to deliver the order to the customer's address. The original shipment date is the date of the entry. So that's just going to pre-populate based on the day you put the sales order in. And your earliest shipment date, this is the date you're going to look at for your order promising, right? So when your capable to promise functionality goes out and looks at everything and brings it back, that earliest shipment date is the date that the system's going to say we could not possibly ship this item any earlier than this date. Okay. The other fields are the unavailability date. Remember on the setup initially, on the company setup, when the calculation date was set at 90 days, this is where that comes in. It's going to go out and it's going to look 90 days into the future to see what kind of orders are out there and what kind of demand and replenishment you have available. It won't look after that unavailability date. So that's going to go 90 days in advance. And after that, it would be unavailable to look at. And then you've got quantity, required quantity, availability, which is how many of the item on the order promising line are actually available, and then the unavailable quantity. All right. So let's talk date calculations. In order to get your planned shipment date, you're going to take the shipment date plus your outbound warehouse handling time, which you've set up on your location card. That's how you get your planned shipment date. And then you take that planned shipment date that you've calculated and add the shipping time, which is on your customer card, and that gives your planned delivery date for your customer. So on the off chance that they request a specific delivery date, then it's going to backwards plan from that requested delivery date. And that's going to look something like this. So they're going to take the requested delivery date that they've requested, and you're going to subtract the shipping time on the customer card. That's going to give the planned shipment date from the warehouse. And then if you take that planned shipment date minus your outbound warehouse handling time, that's going to give you your shipment date. And just so you know, if a date is entered into the promised delivery date field, this substitutes for the requested delivery date. You can calculate on a request or a promise, but not both. All right. So do we have any questions about what we've covered so far? Anything about the setup or the difference between available to promise or capable to promise? No? All right. Well, now we're going to look at a little sales order promising in action. All right. So can you guys see this screen now? I have screens on top of other things. So, what just happened? There it is. Okay. Yep. So I just want to go in and show you a couple of these things really quick where they are. So in your item card, under replenishment, here's that lead time calculation. So these are the ones that we're going to use in today's example. We're going to use a Munich swivel chair in yellow. It's very gorgeous, as you can see on the right. And this particular item has a lead time calculation of 3 days. Okay. The next one we're going to look at is our customer card, and we are going to be shipping to the Alpine Ski House in our example today. Under shipping, as you can see, I have a location code of East set up. So that's the default location that I'm going to ship out of every time. I don't have a code or an agent service that I use by default for this customer, but I do know that it's going to take me 5 days to ship from my warehouse to my customer location. And I'm using the base calendar code for this customer, which is, I believe, just nights and, weekends and holidays off. So let's take a look at what that looks like as well. So we go in here, and here's my base calendar code, and it says my non-working days are just Saturday and Sunday right now. Okay, if I wanted to change that, I could go in here and go to maintain base calendar changes, and it will allow you to make other changes in there. Okay, but we're not going to do that today. I just wanted to show you the calendar. All right. And then on my location card, again, on the customer, you saw that I was defaulting to the East location. So this is my East location. And under the warehouse fast tab, my outbound warehouse handling time here is 1 day. Okay. And I'm on the same base calendar code for this warehouse that I am for my company and my customer. All right. So I'm going to show you a couple of different scenarios. There are going to be 4 examples that we're going to walk through today specifically. So the first one is going to be the available to promise, and I want to use the forward scheduling for that. So I'm going to create a new sales order. You like how I said my service is working, and now I'm going to get the spinny blue circle. Okay, sales order. And again, we're going to use my customer name 40000 Alpine Ski House. Okay, now this is my sales order. My customer is Alpine Ski House. And if I scroll down to the shipping and billing tab, you'll notice that there are several fields that pre-populated based on what we've done for the setup. My location code is set to East. I have a shipping advice of partial. I can change that on the sales order if I want to complete. My outbound warehouse handling time is 1 day. It says it's going to take 1 day for my warehouse to get this sales order, pick, pack, and then ship the sale. And my shipping time is 5 days to that customer. Okay. So I'm going to add my item. And I want a quantity of 10. Okay. So I have entered 10, and if I scroll all the way over, you'll see that based on, and I should probably mention this, I'm working in a Cronus environment, so it's a demo environment. So the shipment dates and the working dates are always way off so that you don't ever mistake your Cronus environment for a real environment. So today's date is 9/29/2022 per Cronus, just so that you know that's what we're working with. All right, so today's shipment date is 9/29. As you'll see, the order date is 9/29. So it pre-populates this shipment date based on what your order date is. So with that 1 day of outbound warehouse handling time, the planned shipment date then becomes 9/30. And you'll see we have a planned delivery date of 7 days. So obviously, our shipping time was 5 days. So it says 10/7. If you look, we have 5 days of shipping time, which would be the 3rd, right? But we don't work weekends. So it takes those out. And then the planned shipment date would be that next day, which is the 30th, and 1 day of outbound warehouse handling time, which would make it the 29th. Okay. Now we have that in here. We have inventory for this item. Okay. If I go to actions, plan, order promising, we're going to look at this. It says, I want a quantity of 10. I need 10 for my sales order. I have an availability after that required quantity of 5, and 0 are unavailable. Okay. If I click on this available to promise, it's going to give me all the same dates that were on the sales order because the inventory is there. Okay. It still says I have a planned delivery date of 10/7. And then I can accept that and it will lock it down. All right. So that's what the forward scheduling and available to promise looks like. All right. So now I want to show you, for instance, if, let's go ahead and get rid of this line because I already used my order promising. So it will want to do it again. And we're going to go ahead and do that same thing. We're going to enter in our number, our item. Okay. And I want a quantity of 10. But this time, my customer would like to get that by 11:15. Okay. Because I've modified the delivery date, do I want to update the line? Yes, I do. So now when I scroll over, you'll see that my requested delivery date is that 11:15. So if we count backwards again, we're going to do 5 days, right, for our shipping. And as you can see, it's got the 7 days again. That's the difference. And it's because of the weekend. So we're going to go 1 day to the 14th, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, which would be the 8th, and then 1 day of outbound warehouse handling time, which is to the 7th. So that's how it works for your backwards scheduling. And again, all of these dates are on here for the available to promise. So you can just leave it this way, or you can go up to actions, plan, order promising, and do the same thing, available to promise. And it's going to put that same information in here, but it's going to give you all of this other information as well in your sales order promising lines. All right. So now I want to do something a little different. Let's say that the customer calls and says, you know what, I actually need this by 10/4, right? Says you've modified your requested delivery date. Do you want to update the lines? Yes, yes, I do. You're going to notice this is unrealistic, right? So if today is 9/29 and they want it by the 4th, and we know that it needs 5 days of shipping time plus 1 day of outbound warehouse handling time, that's 6 days. There's no way from the 29th that we can get it to them by the 4th based on the calendar, the shipping days, and the outbound warehouse handling days. So it will tell you the shipment date 9/26, which would be the date it would need to ship by to reach that requested delivery date is before today's work date. So it will tell you, it will let you enter it, but you're not going to make that planned delivery date. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a new sales order. And we're going to show the capable to promise functionality. Okay. So we're going to go in, we're going to use the same customer number, Alpine Ski House again, and we're going to put in our item, and we're going to put in 10 again. And if we scroll over, you'll see up at the top, you're going to have an error that says the available inventory is lower than the entered quantity at this location, right? So it says, I don't have the inventory for this available. So if I scroll over to these dates, you will see that my planned delivery date is still 10/7, and that's based on those shipping days plus the outbound warehouse handling time. However, because I don't have enough available inventory, that's not accurate, right? We need to find out what date I can tell the customer I'm going to have this item available to ship to them. So I'm going to go into actions. I'm going to go into plan and order promising. And then because I know that there are not enough available, right? I don't have enough for this order. I'm going to click capable to promise. And it's going to go out and it's going to look at everything that's available. And it's going to tell me when the earliest date that I could potentially ship it would be and when it would get to their facility. So this is saying my earliest possible shipment date would be 10/5. So let's walk backwards and see what that's based on, right? So we're saying that the earliest we could get it to them is 10/13. So that's going to be 5 days of shipping time, right? So you're going to count back 1, 2, 3. We don't count the weekends. 4, 5, plus your outbound warehouse handling time, which would be the 5th. Now, if that's the 5th and today is the 29th, why is it saying that's our earliest shipment date? So do you remember on the item card when we looked at it and we set that lead time calculation up on this item? We're saying that in order for us to get that into our inventory, we're going to have to create a purchase order. And that purchase order is going to take 3 days to arrive to us, right? So we're going to count back. We get it into our warehouse. Oops, I did not mean to do that. As you see, you can change these dates in here. Be careful. All right, so the 5th. The 4th would be when we got into our warehouse, but it takes 3 days to get there. So you're going to count back 1, we skip the weekend, 2, 3 days of lead time. Okay. That's where these dates are coming from. And that's why I said on the setup, it's very, very critical to make sure that you have all of your setup done beforehand for any item that you want to use on Capable to Promise and any customer shipping days, any lead times, etc. If you don't have all of those in there, then you're not going to get accurate results within your sales order promising. So we say, okay, the earliest that we can ship this to you, Mr. Smith at Alpine, is that acceptable? Yes, no. They say yes. We say, okay, we're going to accept this. Okay. So we've done that. And what we've done when we've accepted that is a couple of things. We have reserved 10 of this item in inventory. Okay. So we currently have 5 in inventory that are available because we had 15, but our other sales order had 10 and we had those. And now we've got 5 more that we're reserving to this sales order specifically. But we have 5 that we need. So it's going to create a requisition line in the planning worksheet. Okay. So here is the requisition line. You can show the worksheet. And it's going to say in this worksheet, I need 5 of these and I need them on a purchase order. So the due date needs to be 10/5 in order to ship it to the customer by our promised delivery date that we've given them. Okay. So this creates this line in the planning worksheet. And if your planners are in a different area or a different department, it will show up on their planning worksheet and they'll look at it and go, oh, okay, I see this. Why do I need that? Right. And then you can go in and you can look at the line and it will show you what sales order this is reserved to. All right. And that is what it does. So that is what our sales order promising looks like and how it tracks through the system. Are there any other questions? Does anybody have any questions about the sales order promising?
If you have any questions for Robin, you can feel free to unmute and ask. Robin, do you have any concluding thoughts that you'd like to add in?
I don't know that I have concluding thoughts so much as, I tried to put as much information into the slides as possible to make your setup easier. The important concept that I would like to really, really get across where sales order promising is concerned is the setup. Again, if it's not set up consistently across the board, you're not going to get the correct information out of it. It is extremely robust and can go out and look at any purchase orders, production orders, sales order returns, all of those things to see where that inventory is and how far out it is and when it will be available. But again, you have to have that setup done correctly to begin with. Otherwise, it's not going to take everything into account. And if you say, oh, yeah, I can have it to you on this day, but you don't have a lead time in for your item, it's not going to take into account how long that item takes to get to you. If you don't have stuff set up in your routings correctly, it's not going to look at the amount of time it takes for you to produce an item, so it won't have the correct information. You have to make sure that your setup is done correctly.
That is fantastic, Robin. Thank you so much for going through your demos. I always understand things so much better when I can see them play out. So thank you for your time in doing that. For your last CPE CAE question, please drop into chat what your most important takeaway was from the webinar today. I will go ahead and close this out. Robin, I'm going to take over that screen share.
Yeah, you bet.
Yours will automatically just drop off, I think. Yep. If you would check out the Innovia resources page, you'll see tons of resources readily available to you. You can scan that QR code to access all of these resources. There's upcoming workshop, conferences. They have tons of case studies posted, blogs. Their upcoming webinars are on their on this page, on the resource page, and as always, on the usteducation.org site. I will put that link in chat for you. But this is a great resource if you have questions or need more from the Innovia Consulting team. Again, thank you so much to Robin and to our participants for joining.